Welcome to the Whole Health Podcast,
where a functional nutritionist and a biological dentist investigate the interconnectedness of your health.
Let's get started. Welcome back to the Whole Health Podcast. And today I'm so excited to be introducing everybody to my dear, dear friend, Gina Newman. This is a special episode because we're not getting into the science. We're not getting into these little details. We're telling a true life story of somebody that basically took the entire concept of whole health and applied it in a pretty pivotal time in her life this year. And I thought her story is so important and she means so much to me that I wanted to share it with everybody. So thanks for being here, Gina.
Gosh, you guys, thanks for having me.
So I want to do a little bit of like a chronological timeline here because I think these bits and pieces matter to the whole story. So about 11 years ago, we might have been partying it up in Vegas for your 40th birthday because, girl, you can party. And sometimes you make me have fun, and I do this with you. And then I think, well, don't have to be fun again for 10 years. So we got back from Vegas, and your life changed abruptly. So can you tell us what happened?
Yes. We got back from Vegas. Actually, at that time, John and I were talking about having a third child. So I talked to my OBGYN, and so she said I was using, I was taking birth control. She says, you have to stop taking birth control for so many months, and then you can start trying for your third. So 3 months had went by, and it was September, and I was like, oh, my 3 months are almost up, but I got a thing in the mail that said you need to come in for your 40-year mammogram. So I went in for that, and what was so funny is I had Crew and Bo, and then I had the neighbor kids because I was watching them that day, and I forgot. I go, oh my gosh, I have a mammogram. So I took them all with me. Like, we all went, and I was like, do you guys? And then I remember them saying, we don't have childcare right now. You're going to have to come back. And so I load them all back up in the car. We leave. Okay, so that was kind of the story of, going to my first mammogram. But so we rescheduled, went back, and they came out. I was waiting for a bit. And she's like, oh, Gina, we might have to do, she's like, you have really dense breast. So I think we might do some more pictures. I was like, okay. So I go in for more pictures. And then she says, we're going to look at these. We might have the radiologist reach out to you. They had me wait in the waiting room. So I waited, and he brought me back in, and he said, we're just seeing some stuff that's raising an eyebrow. 3 years before that, I did have a lift, and they had done a mammogram prior to that. So when they were comparing that mammogram to this one, so there was a 3-year window there, they were like, there's some stuff that's raising an eyebrow that wasn't there 3 years before. So they sent me home. Then I got a call saying they scheduled me for an ultrasound. And then I think a week later, I went in for an MRI, and then they said, we're going to need to do a biopsy. And after that, I think is when I got the call from Shanta, who I love, my OBGYN so much. And she was like, oh, honey, are you sitting down? And I'm like,
oh, boy.
And she's like, you have breast cancer, and it might be traveling. I'm not sure. I mean, it was just kind of like, and she goes, and you're going to meet with Dr. Della Malena, but she's out of town for the next week. What? So we don't know. We're not going to know the stage of it. How severe, if it's, what kind of cancer it is for another week. So I remember calling Megan right away. She was the first one over, and she's like, all right, so here's what we're going to do. Immediately, I remember you getting us on. I was juicing. John, we were juicing every day, quinoa, all the things. Up until,
quinoa. Remember when quinoa was new?
Yeah. Right before kale.
Yeah. It was like, I think it was a ton of quinoa, chicken, and juicing, carrot juicing. I think that's what. And I remember you came over, we cried, we had a bottle of wine, and you're like, okay, we're going to get through this. And then the next week is when I met with Dr. Della Malena, and she said I suggest a double mastectomy. You do have a lump. And I go, I have a lump? Because I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel bad. And I said, where? And she was kind of pointing in this area, and I go, oh. And she goes, it's right there. And I started digging, and I go, oh gosh, there is. And it felt
so it was like under your armpit feeling, kind of on the side of your breast.
To the side. And it was like a round marble. It felt like a round marble. And I was like, oh, shoot. And she was like, I suggest a double mastectomy because in your case, I've dealt with too many people that if they do a lumpectomy or just one breast, that the chances are a lot higher it'll come back. So I was like, okay, when do we get this, scheduled? And she said, well, I'm going to have you also meet. No, I think I did my double mastectomy. And I do remember I did. I went into surgery. They didn't know what, they needed to send off some tissue. And I remember telling John, because that was going to determine if I was going to have to do chemo or not, or what stage or anything I had, if it went into the nodes. And I told John, when I wake up from surgery, do not tell me. Do not tell me. It will not serve me. I do not need to know. Well, of course, the first thing, I wake up out of surgery, I'm like, did it go into any nodes? And he's like, Gina. And then I'm like, I need to know. Did it? And he's like, it went into one node. And so they want you to meet with a treatment oncologist. So I think weeks later, we went to a treatment oncologist, and she was very, I can't remember her name, but she does work in the same office that Dr. Anderson at the time. And she didn't really look at us. There was no, it just felt like I was another number to her. And I walked in and she goes, okay, she was at her desk. She had all these Stanford plaques. And she just said, okay, so here's what's going on. You're going to need chemo, radiation, tamoxifen. Your life's going to suck for 2 years. I mean, it was like, and for me at that time, I needed someone very nurturing. And some people might thrive from that. Some people want a doctor like that. I think for me, I was like, and I had Dr. Della Molina that was so nurturing. I had my other reconstructive doctor, Megan. And so then I'm having this lady that it's like, she's not asking me anything. It's basically like, and then I remember her saying, if you want a second opinion, you can get one. And I go, okay, thank you. And she goes, you'll be starting in 3 weeks.
So there were no options given to you. It was just,
no,
this is what you have and this will be your treatment.
Yes. So we walked out of there, and that was the first time John kind of got emotional with me. We sat on the stairs and kind of cried, and I was like, wow. Our world has changed right now. I'm doing chemo, radiation, and tamoxifen. And she's like, yeah, your world's going to suck. And
how old are your boys at this point in time?
They are 5 and 7.
Yeah.
I know. Love bugs. And so I remember talking to a friend of a friend, and she goes, Gina, I have someone to introduce you to. She's been dealing with this too the last few years. And her and I start talking, and she goes, I have amazing doctor, Dr. Anderson, and I really think if you want a second opinion, you should go see him. So we scheduled with him, we sat down with him, and he just laid everything out. He said, Gina, I looked at all your stuff. You qualify for an Oncotype DX. You're 40, it's in one node. We can see how aggressive your cancer is. We can send your tissue off and figure out if you even need to do chemo or anything. And I go, oh my gosh, why didn't she tell me this? It was almost like, oh, well, it was just... she could just charge, another $200,000 for, I don't know. She just, I was like, you guys, and John was not happy about it. He was like, unbelievable. We just met with her 2 weeks ago. You guys are in the same office. She mentioned none of this, Oncotype DS, none of this, that Gina qualifies for this. And he's like, I don't know, but if you guys are up for it, let's get it started. So he said a high number would be 26. Weeks later, it came back and we met with him and my number was at 13. So I decided, he said, it's up to you, Gina. You're going to need to do some soul searching. I would say probably do chemo. And so I went home, and back then, there isn't all the information we have now, but I got online and I Googled everything on Oncotype DX blogs, and everybody that was from an 18 down said they didn't do it. So I chose not to do chemo at that point. So we met back with him, and I said, I need to know that you're not going to lose sleep over this, if I choose not to do this. And he said, I won't, but I'll lose sleep if you don't do tamoxifen, because your cancer feeds off estrogen and it's an estrogen blocker. So I was on tamoxifen for 8 to 10 years. And during that time, a year goes by later, or 2 years, and we decide we are really excited about wanting to pull the trigger for a third child. So we communicate with him, and he says, wow, you're 42, like, are you guys serious?
Aren't you already tired?
Right, aren't you already tired and all the things? And he said, but I will give you 4 months. You have to be completely off tamoxifen for 4 months because it causes birth defects. And then I'll give you 6 months to try after that. So I was off for 4 months. Then at month 5, I get pregnant at almost 43 years old, or maybe 43 at the time, and found out we were having a girl. And oh my gosh, I cried and cried and cried.
There was so much pink.
Oh, so much pink. I was so excited. I never thought we'd maybe even have a third, but let alone a girl. So we had baby Charlie. Oh my gosh, the love of our life. She makes our world complete. But so then he said if I did tamoxifen and the double mastectomy, there was a 6% chance, I think, of it coming back. I think if I would have done chemo, it was 4%. So we outweighed the numbers. I do remember us looking a lot on the numbers and saying, God, there's not
2%.
2%.
Yeah.
So we went through our life that, and I saw Dr. Anderson every 6 months, and I would always tell him, how am I going to know? And he was like, well, if you have anything that lasts more than 2 weeks, let me know. And I had my security blanket seeing him every 6 months doing my labs, feeling great, all the things.
And are you doing scans during this time?
No.
And then if you're thinking back on this original diagnosis, does anything change in your life? Like, because I know during that time you did a lot of nutritional changes, but long term,
beginning,
nutrition, lifestyle, was anything changing for you? Were you paying attention to those things?
No. I can say I was not paying attention. I think I've always been really into fitness and working out and eating well, but was I really eating well? And now what I know now and how I'm eating, no, I wasn't looking at ingredients. I was eating, I love my sweets, I was eating probably more sugar than I needed, drinking, on socially or weekends, but I don't know. I think I got complacent and thought 4% chance and we're just going to live our lives and
raise our kids.
Yeah. And every 6 months, everything, there was no scans except before she was born and after. So that was in 2017.
So you're doing blood work along the way.
Yep.
You're feeling good, living your life.
Yep.
Decade
goes
by from the last diagnosis. And then talk me through the end of last year, because things started to shift in your health at the end of 2024. You're having some wonky stuff going on.
Yes. So we go to Mexico in October for my niece's wedding. The third day, we were only there 4 days. I think the third day I started having some major digestive issues, I still don't know if this is part of it, but that's kind of when it started. Feeling pretty crappy. The 2 days, the last 2 days of the trip leading on flying home, was feeling very sick. Some throwing up and then some stuff going on. So that went on probably for 4 or 5 days, and we thought maybe, and then John started feeling the same. So we thought maybe there was a parasite involved there or something we caught. I would say a week later from there, I started having a ton of tightness and heaviness in my chest, to where I remember, because I'm a flight attendant, I was flying with some of the girls on my flight, and I kept going, oh my gosh, every time we laugh, I'd hold my chest. I was like, gosh, it's hard to breathe. And they're like, and I was even Googling signs of a heart attack. I mean, I don't know, because I'm just like, I'm super healthy. It was pretty extreme. Or I was Googling, I wasn't thinking anything else, but I don't know, maybe pneumonia, bronchitis, or heart. And they were like, Gina, you should get that looked at,
And you did.
I did. I'm a squeaky wheel. So I did get that looked at. I went in to the clinic and I said, here's what I'm dealing with. And they're like, how long? Maybe it's bronchitis. So they ran an x-ray and she says, oh, you have pneumonia. Okay. And so she put me on 5 antibiotics a day for 7 days.
And they said pneumonia because they saw some sort of shading.
They saw shading.
Yeah.
So
5 different antibiotics.
No, sorry. 5 antibiotics. The same antibiotics, but I would take, or maybe I was taking 6 a day for 7 straight days. So 42.
A lot of antibiotics.
A lot of antibiotics. So but then, so that kind of cleared up a little bit. Still, I still felt like, was there some fluid in there? I couldn't tell, but I was feeling a little better. And then 2 weeks later, I had this lumbar pain that, there was nothing that I could think of that caused it. Like people were like, Gina, you work out? I go, but I hadn't worked out in weeks because I wasn't feeling great. I was like, there's nothing I can think and they're like, well, we're getting older, maybe a bulge disc. And then I got this extreme thirst, which I can still have, to where I've worked out my whole life, done hot yoga, worked on a plane, and I drink 1 glass of water. This was getting to where I was, and still sometimes, gallon a day. Water. So I went back to the doctor and I said, there's something not right. And I started Googling pre-diabetic. I'm like, am I pre-diabetic? It was saying to have your kidneys looked at. And so we ran all these labs. And I remember reaching out to Megan a ton. And even you were like, your numbers are so tricky because everything...
It didn't make sense.
It didn't make sense, the way I was feeling and what my labs were saying. And so I kept going back to the clinic going, can we do more labs? And it came back, okay, Gina, you're not pre-diabetic. Let's do a kidney ultrasound. We did a kidney ultrasound, fine.
Because your calcium was elevated, which is a key part of the story, and your creatinine was elevated. So all of a sudden people think kidney, but the other kidney markers weren't there. So it was like,
yes,
can't be kidney.
Right. And it was that was very confusing, again, because I would reach out to you a ton and go, what is going on? This is, like water. I want to have a hose held to my mouth all day. I mean, that's how extreme, like and it still gets like that. It's crazy. But
And you're going to the doctor, like you were at the doctor quite a bit.
lot. Then
like
I started going to the chiropractor. Because my back was so sore, I started going to the chiropractor probably 3 days a week, doing all these adjustments, trying to get some relief and wasn't getting it. Fast forward 2 weeks later, I get this sciatic pain that's probably the most excruciating pain I've ever had, ever. Like, I've never dealt with anything like this, to where for 2 straight weeks I was sleeping downstairs on the couch, sitting straight up. That's the only way that I could, and I had pillows around, because the only way that I could get any sort of relief. And all my family would go to bed, good night, I hope you guys are doing well. Just, it was just like, I wanted to go around the house
just gonna
doing
sit here.
cowbells, like, oh, like, and was in a ton of pain. And there were so many nights John would come down, he'd get in the hot tub with me, because I could get relief. I'd be at 3 a.m. outside in the hot tub, because that's the only way I could get relief. I'd be looking at a million videos on sciatic treatment, or what to do to relieve the pain. It was getting to, yeah, I remember calling the doctor and saying, if we don't get an MRI, I'm about to like jump a ledge. And I remember them saying over the phone, ma'am, if you're really thinking about like jumping off, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to jump a ledge.
Call the crisis line. You're like, no. I just need an MRI.
It was so extreme. And I think during that time, and rewind for 1 second, the chest thing was coming back full throttle. So then I thought, gosh, maybe I got pneumonia again. I did kind of go down a short rabbit hole, like, God, is this pneumonia? It was getting bad, actually, to where it was hard to have a full conversation, to take deep breaths. During this window, my resting heart rate was at 90 to 100.
But your care was still being quite siloed. It was like somebody's looking at your chest, somebody's looking at your back. It's
Yes.
not like pieces aren't being put together.
Nothing, no.
And your sciatica turns out to be kind of divine intervention
Right.
at this point.
Yes.
So then what happens?
So then we go back to the clinic, and John is like, if you don't get her an MRI right now, it was debilitating. We finally get everything approved. I go in for an MRI, and again, I'm thinking, let's meet with acupuncturist, bulge disc. I'm doing all this research at Rebound. What can I do for physical therapy? And so we get an MRI and get a CT scan scheduled for the next week, because my chest was, I was really struggling up here, breathing and getting around. And I remember getting the results on the MRI on my chart. I remember that day getting it, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I would have never thought in a million years. I was like, bone metastatic cancer. Like, I can't remember vaguely, it's all a blur, but I do remember reading like cancer in the bones, and I'm just like, I just froze.
It said probable multiple myeloma. And we were like, what the what?
What the what? Yeah. And I remember going down to John's office. He's sitting there, and I go, John, and he just stared at it. And I think I was in shock at the time. And then the doctor called right then, and she started talking to John. And I remember sweating really, really bad and feeling like I was going to throw up. And I remember just going in the bathroom floor and laying down, and I just cried for like 5-10 minutes. And then we were like, okay. And I remember calling Megan right away, or probably sending you the chart or the scans, and going, okay, so, what's our next step? Well, fast forward 2 days later, I was like, oh, okay, so that's going on down here. Awful news. It's news we never expected to hear ever. And then with the chest, I was like, okay, I kept praying, please God, let this just only be pneumonia or bronchitis. And then we get the CT scan, was it? And I remember calling you, and you looked at the chart, and I was sitting in the hot tub because I was in so much pain with my back still. And I said, John, will you come out and just read this? I don't want to look at anything, open it up. And I remember him just standing there for 5 minutes, just looking at, he wouldn't say anything. And I go, well, John, you got to talk to me. And he just kept looking with it. And I was like, you got to talk to me, John? And he's like, oh, Gina. And then you had called. And I still to this day don't know everything. I know it said, enlarged heart, and there's tons of inflammation and cancer around the lungs. And I felt like our world just fell apart. I was like, wow, here I was thinking pneumonia and a bulge disc, and here's where we're at right now, and at that point, you came over and you're like, all right, we're going to grab the bull by the horns. And, and rewind. I know I did have a little bump in I forgot about this. There was a little swollen node in but I was so sick around the Mexico time.
Yeah, I thought, oh, it's a swollen lymph node because I'm sick.
I'm sick.
Yep.
During the whole time. Then I had this little bump around my clavicle, tiny. I mean, it was, I don't know how.
Double the size of a pea.
Yes. And I do remember calling
Yeah.
Dr. Anderson weeks before I got the scans going, hey, can we do, and they're like, yeah, let's just do they were going to do a scan on it. Fast forward, now that we found out I have cancer, I called Dr. Anderson right away. He's like, all right, we're going to need to get you in and we're going to want to biopsy that, which they ended up biopsying this instead.
Yeah, because you needed a PET scan first.
Right.
And this was the learning experience, right? It's like, well, we can't biopsy till we PET, and the PET has to be pushed out. And I remember a lot of our conversations were around, oh no, we got to make this happen way faster, way faster.
Why there was such a sense of urgency, how different this cancer diagnosis was from 11 years before, is the pain that I was in. Mm-hmm. Before I was like, oh, I didn't even know I had a swollen node there or anything. The pain that I was using a walker. I could barely even get around. People come over, I'd have to text. I couldn't have a conversation. I couldn't, my 19-year-old son's helping me up the stairs.
Your husband's helping you to the bathroom.
Yeah.
You really couldn't move.
I couldn't move. So, and it just, the breathe. And so for me, a sense of urgency when I knew it was cancer around the lungs and throughout, was like, we got to get a sense of urgency here. This has happened way too quick within a 3-month window. And I just felt like, oh my God, it's all in my lungs everywhere because of how I felt and how I couldn't breathe and all the things. So when we called Anderson and got the PET scan scheduled, 2 weeks was too long, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Which, you'll hear people go, they've waited months or, mm-hmm. So that silence in between is the enemy for sure. So at that time, that's where your support system comes in. That's where John was scheduling people to fly in. My best friends were flying in. I had people stopping by every day. You have to have that support system because your wheels are turning 24/7. You don't know where the cancer's gone. Yeah, and I think it's how powerful your thoughts are and trying to get the negativity and the thoughts that won't serve me out of my head. And I remember talking to Megan and multiple people about this, but I said, when we sit down with Dr. Anderson, I do not want to know the prognosis. I do not tell me if it's months or years to live. That will not serve me. Yeah. I can't have any negativity. And I didn't Google anything. To this day, I don't Google bone or lymphatic. I don't. Oh, well, so I just kind of ruined it, but rewind. So we get the scan back and he sits down with us and says, and you were in the room for that. Mm-hmm. Yes. And says, all right, Gina. And I said, I don't want to know any numbers. Do not tell me any numbers. And he's like, okay, well, let me fast forward through that.
He's like, I guess I'll cut to the chase here,
Right. And he says, okay, you have, stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. And we think it's from the original breast cancer. It's gone to your bones and lymphatic system. And, of course, you just hear kind of wah after that. That's why Megan and John are there to take the notes and to be my ears. But so then he said, because of your situation, or because of the scans that he had, the CT and the MRI, we need to start chemo sooner than later. I couldn't have just gone through straight to hormone therapy.
No. And can I fill in a couple of blanks during that time? Because I'm not technically a medical provider, but I have a lot of close relationships with medical providers. And we were sort of farming out your information, trying to get some information from people. And we had two radiologists look at what we were seeing. And then my business partner, who was already starting to support you on high dose ivermectin, which look at the research, people, before you get all upset about this. But really phenomenal research at the time. We thought if it is multiple myeloma, because we didn't know until later when the biopsy came back that it was metastasized breast cancer. We were going off of the premise that this could be multiple myeloma. Phenomenal research around high dose ivermectin for multiple myeloma. So we'd started that. You had started some high dose vitamin C. Some other people had looked at things. When you saw your oncologist and he said chemotherapy, it was like, yeah, that makes sense, because based on the scan, it was in every bone to the point where you were in pain breathing because your ribs had cracked from the cancer. It was big, right?
Yeah.
But you made this conscious decision in that moment. I am not a statistic.
Yep.
I don't need your statistics. They mean nothing to me.
Right.
And you'd applied an organic, whole food, keto, vegan diet at the time.
Yes.
You were loving it.
I was loving it. I'm still loving it. No. Yes. So all those things. Yes. Megan immediately was like, all right, we're going to plug you, and I have to say Mary Constantino, amazing.
Shout out.
Team.
Shout out
to Mary Constantino. And immediately she's like, get her in here. Let's get a biopsy done, a port. And then she even...
You were on the fast forward track.
Yes. And through Diana Henson, naturopath, and obviously you, Anderson, Deshawn, for...
You have your peeps.
I have my peeps. I have a dream team for sure. So I think, so within 2 days we had chemo scheduled, and I can honestly tell you I did 6 chemo sessions, and not one time did I really ever feel bad, ever. And I really do think, because I think the pain that I was dealing with for so long, for 3 months, that each treatment, I just was like, after each treatment, I was like, I can breathe better today. Oh my gosh. Or I'd walk up the flight of steps on my second treatment. I'm like, I just walked up a flight of stairs and I didn't have to take it. Like, I didn't have to stop. Oh, the walker, put that thing up, I don't need, John would be like, do you need help? Nope. Or if it would be like, he'd be like, you need to walk around the circular driveway. Up till then, there's no way I could have done that. I'm like, I just walked around the driveway. After each treatment, I could tell that my body was responding to it, which was very exciting. Also, I think what was a huge part in it, and this has continued to be part of my journey and will forever, is, the keto was huge, I think, for cutting out dairy, anything that was going to cause any more inflammation to my body, with the sugars not feeding the cancer. Every time I put something in my body, am I feeding it or am I starving the cancer? I think with anything that's, carbs or anything that turn into sugar. So I just knew that food or supplements were my medicine. And I also am like, I have so much life to live. I'm still young. I have 3 amazing, beautiful kids, a husband that I could talk for hours about, and my friendships. I mean, I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. So I keep saying I'm doing all the things, So not only that, I think your faith is extremely important. And anytime I still to this day, when I get really anxious or I look at lab results, or I have if I'm like, why is that? The other day I was like, why is this feeling chesty up here? I was getting nervous. It's PTSD a little bit.
Yes,
like,
of course.
Why?
Of course.
It could just, and so I have to go, okay, God, I'm going to hand all my fears, everything over to you. I have to, because it's not, and it's not serving me, and I've got to be able to heal. And I know that I can hand this to you. I think my meditations have been huge.
Talk about that, because I feel like, and sorry, I'm totally dominating this.
No. This is great.
Yeah.
You had such an assertive approach to your mindset during this process.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, one of my good friends, Shannon Berry, has been a life meditation coach for me through this process. And it's like positive thoughts, anything, Gina. And I've listened to Joe Dispenza a lot. I do a lot of his meditations, and thinking that anytime a positive or anything negative comes in, I have to flip my script, flip the switch. Okay, what's the best case scenario? Like, I think when I'm like, I have to celebrate the wins. I don't go on what ifs. I can't go on the unknowns. It won't serve me. I can't go on statistics. I can't Google negative things. I can't Google anything that's going to be any negative information that I might read. So for me, just being able to kind of turn my brain off or convert all those negative thoughts to positive, or when I'm doing the meditations at night and I set an intention and I really think about it, like, even before I got my scan results, I kept thinking about this conversation with Anderson and how excited he was going to be when my results came out great, and kept thinking about that and setting that intention over and over, or thinking about 10 years down the road, celebrating 10 years remission, right? And then my body feeling that emotion, because your body doesn't know reality versus future, right? And I feel that has helped me a ton through this. When we did get through chemo and I did meet with Dr. Anderson, and he sat down and he said, wow, Gina, he was blown away by my scans. And he said, and I recorded the conversation, I've listened to it multiple times, but he said, I'm not going to have you do chemo because I can't even make it. I can't do better for you right now. Your body, there is no active cancer. All your cancer is below a 2. I think it was up to a 10 or 12. Mm-hmm. He says, I can't do any better myself if I wanted to.
So it was middle of January when you were diagnosed. You had your kind of peripheral treatments. You had 6 chemo treatments.
Mm-hmm. Radiation.
And by the middle, it was the end of March, because you called me when I was on spring break.
Yes.
And you texted me the scan, the side by side.
Yes.
One riddled with cancer,
mm-hmm.
one where you saw no cancer.
Yep.
It was 9 weeks.
Then I think my first treatment was around January 23rd.
Yep.
And then I got the results on March 27th or 28th and said, basically, I don't know what you're doing, but
it's worked.
It's working. And your cancer is not active right now. And this is amazing. And it was, a scan that was lit up that wasn't, after all the treatments, and said, your body's responded very well. I'm not going to give you another treatment. And we're going to put you on hormone therapy, which is an estrogen blocker, because my cancer feeds off estrogen. And then Kasquali, which is 3 pills, 600 milligrams every day, which is pretty intense on your liver and some other organs. So they want to make sure that they were, the last month I've been doing EKG every week, and then also seeing how my white blood cells and everything respond to that.
Yep.
And
when we spoke this week, so we're recording this in the middle of May, so you've been finished with the chemotherapy for 2 months. And when we spoke this week, you're a little bit concerned about your CBC, your complete blood count, and just looking at your white blood cells, which takes some time to recover from chemotherapy.
Right.
But I said to you, okay, Gina, it's May.
Right.
It's been 4 months since the diagnosis. How do you feel?
Right.
And what did you say?
I said, I feel really good. And I think I told Megan, I can't continue to look at these lab results because the last 3 weeks they've caused a lot of anxiety because my white blood cells were so low, even though I feel really good. And I'm still doing all the things. But so I've had to do 2 white blood cell booster shots the last few weeks. And my number doubled after my booster shot. So I was at 4.6 and I'm like, yes, so excited. and then recently it just went down to a 2.9, but that's okay. I had 2 booster shots that really boosted my immune cells. And so where we're at now, I just need to celebrate all the wins, which I am every day. It's like having so much gratitude, and I have to continue again with prayer, meditation, and just gratitude. And I have affirmations all around a window in my bathroom. That's like, gosh, I think where I was 3 or 4 months ago, right? I'm alive. I'm walking. I'm breathing. I'm getting upstairs. I've got amazing friends. My support system has been amazing, and my family. And so I have to continue to celebrate all those wins and stop. I guess with my lab results, I'm like, they're just not serving me when I'm looking at them. So I'm handing them over to Megan. But at this point, I'm like, you look at them. I can't, and so again, I do feel really great. It's just, and this is this is my lifestyle now, which is fine. This is cancer, not fine. But I think what I'm doing throughout this journey, and why maybe I felt so good all through chemo and still feeling good, where I'm just starting to work out again, which is exciting, is I think it's all those things that have really helped me along my journey. And I think we should all probably be doing that, right? Like looking at what we're eating, putting in our body, you know, the meditation, the prayer, the friendships, your support system, exercise, I think.
And you've made a huge shift in even your household with.
Yes. I've
lots of shifts in
yes, I've become a little psychotic on it because I don't know. I think it's a lot of things that could have ignited or triggered the cancer, right? And rather it be, you know, our thoughts or all the things. But I think environmentally, you know, I work on an airplane. We had all our air ducts just recently. We're getting tested for mold. Our well water is going to get tested. I've replaced, you know, I'm like, out with the log cabin syrup, everything out. Like, you know, we're taking veggie sticks, they're bad, you know? Environmental and, you know, the toothbrush we use, the toothpaste, I didn't know they had unbleached toilet paper. We're using that now. I mean, so I think because I want to make sure that I continue to use this word, but do all the things because there's not a stage after stage 4, right? So, and being still young and having this, you know, young, amazing, beautiful family and friends that I have to do all the things. And if that's replacing toilet paper with unbleached toilet paper or our flossers or our toothbrushes or plastics to glass, I mean, I'm going to continue to do those things, if you know, and then the no alcohol, the no sugar, the no dairy. Yeah.
This is why I really wanted you to share your story because it was a kitchen sink approach
right
to a scary thing that you owned and continue to own every single day.
Yeah.
Something I'm going to pitch in here.
Yes, please.
That I heard in your story, which thank you for sharing that. It's incredible. One of the things that, along with leaning into kind of the spiritual side of things, was the mindset.
Yeah.
And I loved when you shared that, like you're already telling yourself or creating visualizations of the 10 years from now.
Right.
Like you already have in your mind what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
I'm curious, as I know it's still kind of close in the past, but in hindsight, what do you feel were the most influential factors to your, some might call it like miraculous healing?
I would say, because I still feel like I have, because I still feel like I'm only 4 months in and I have a long ways to go, you know, but I really, in my heart of hearts, and rather, again, I really do feel that I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. I will continue to fight and do all the things and beat this. And you know, again, I think setting those intentions to where you know, I think I was flooding myself like with my nervous system for years of like, I'd watch those sad movies and I would sob and I'd Google negative things and I'd listen to Dateline, all the things. And I don't do that anymore. So I'm not I'm only listening to watching things that are light. I'm not, you know, the murder mysteries or just people with their stories. And and then I just sit there and sob and cry. And I just think that, you know, or I'd let those what ifs come in my brain and I think once I found out about the cancer, I was like, I will not think of what ifs. I don't think someone would say, well, have you made videos just in case? I would never do that. I'm not, so I just have to, I don't do what ifs. I can't do the unknowns. What I can control is my positive thoughts, my positive intentions all the time. And again, in meditation, it's just thinking about 20 years. I think about my kids and being at their weddings. I think about all those things and how it makes me feel inside. And then, because again, my body doesn't, I'm like, this is really happening to, you know, it doesn't know if it's 10 years or 15 or 20 years from now. And so if I can just get my nervous system back to where it needs to be and my immune system to where, you know, I feel like just the last week, my little green guys, my army men are laying down. I'm like, get up. You're the front line, you know, because if any invaders come in, if the cancer one, I need you up. But I'm also I'm the one that's creating that too, right? So if I'm always in fight or flight or thinking of the negative or letting those negative thoughts or what ifs, it's not going to serve me and help my healing journey, I guess. So
it's incredible.
You.
Know if that's
so awesome
your question, but.
No, that was beautiful. And I guess that was kind of where in my clinical practice, one of the things I ask people, and this stems from where I started, which was in psychology, is asking people, what does it look like to have a successful outcome? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if they can tell me what that looks like, I just have this intuitive sense like, well, we've got a very good chance of helping you get healthy, from the perspective of oral health management that I'm doing. And when they don't know, that's a sign like, well, okay, the mouth isn't the right place to start.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, the same is true when I'm seeing things in the mouth and I know it's not a dental root cause issue here. There's this gal named Megan Barnett I want you to call.
Yeah, exactly.
But I love how you're being so intentional around even these things like TV shows, movies, things that you read, stuff online that you're tuning into. Boy, I hope that hits home with some people because I start my day every day with listening to Christian radio because of how I feel, feeling uplifted, going to work, knowing that my job is to serve people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And, right now you're asking, I like that, the Green Army man, like blood cells that
stand up,
hey,
stand up, guys.
We got a ways to go.
And the beauty in that is that they do listen.
Yeah.
They can't not listen. That's just so great how you're being intentional with, as you say, all the things. It's true that everything matters.
Yeah.
Even, particularly your mindset.
Right.
So
for sure.
I love that you shared that. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Gina, you've always been an inspiration well before cancer, between the cancers. And that's because you've always been such an incredible friend and a cheerleader for everybody, which makes me cry. Because that's just who you are. And this was the time you had to be that for yourself. And you have nailed it.
Thank you. And I mean, Megan, you know how much I care about you. And I honestly, besides the family and friends, support system, faith, Megan, I can't put a price on your friendship and just the knowledge and wisdom and passion you have in what you do. It means the world to me. So I love you so much.
I love you to pieces. So we have to ask you this. What does whole health mean to you?
I think kind of what I've said. I feel like it's like a green smoothie. It's not, I was thinking about this. I was like, I make my green smoothies every day and it's everything that you put into it, right? That nourishes and flourishes your body. And I feel like food and supplements are my medicine, but I also think in the green smoothie, you've got to, not only do you have your supplements and, your, what you're putting in your body, your food, but your family, your faith, the meditation, your friendships. I think laughter is huge. I think having sun, the exercising, all those are part of like mental health and my healing journey. So I think if you just put all that combination and it creates this beautiful green smoothie that like nourishes your body. I guess that's what I feel like whole health for me right now is having all those things in my life and just continuing. This is my new normal now, which is great. And this is how I think everyone's new normal should be. But I would say that's whole health for me right now on this journey and moving forward.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for the honesty, the vulnerability, and the participation in sharing with others your story. I know it's going to impact people. And
it will change other people's lives, Gina.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. And I just don't want anyone to ever think like just you hear the C word or metastatic that it's a death sentence. Like you can flip the script and there's so many. And one last thing I want to say is I think at this time where we're at, there's so much knowledge out there, whether it be podcasts, books, doctors that I follow even on TikTok. There's so much information out there and there's so much hope that people are getting now from, all these things that, it doesn't mean you have to curl up in a ball and just, be done. Like, you're like, we have so much knowledge and information to all these things. And then with just being, younger, I still feel younger and
you are.
And having a family. So those are the things that I will continue to fight for as long as I can, every ounce in me. Not going anywhere. Bo's like, you're not? I'm like, nope, not going anywhere, buddy.
Sticking around, eat your vegetables.
Sticking around, eat your veggies.
Eat your damn vegetables.
Yes.
All right, big love. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Whole Health Podcast.
If you enjoyed what you heard today, please follow us on social media and wherever you listen to podcasts.
You can find out more about us at thewholehealthpodcast.com.
You can find me on my website, blodgettdentalcare.com.
And you can find me at bioloungepdx.com or learn more about my organic soluble fiber supplement, Fluorosophy, at thinkfluorosophy.com.
We look forward to seeing you next time.